So what does it take to become a legend? Not just for your own time, but for all time. Today we're going to dig into the life of one of history's most important figures, the Prophet Abraham, or Ibrahim, to try and answer one really powerful question. What does it actually mean to have a heart like his?
Think about that for a second. This saying from the Prophet Muhammad is pretty incredible. It tells us that Abraham's qualities, they're not just some dusty old history lesson. Nope, they're a living, breathing standard, a kind of spiritual blueprint for sincerity and strength that's still around today, carried by a handful of people.
All right, let's get right into it. To really understand what this means, we have to go all the way back to the beginning of his story, back to when he was just a young man trying to figure out a world that was pretty corrupt and honestly really confusing. So picture this. Our story starts in a land ruled by a total tyrant named Nimrod. This was a guy so full of himself that he actually ordered people to worship statues. And yeah, one of them was a statue of him. This is the world a young Abraham was born into.
I mean, can you imagine seeing everyone around you, even your own family, bowing down to these lifeless statues? It just didn't sit right with Abraham. He saw people giving all this respect to chunks of stone that couldn't do anything for them. And this deep, logical questioning just started bubbling up inside him.
And this is where his mind, his pure logic, really kicks in. He starts looking for answers in the sky. First, he sees a bright star. Maybe that's God. But then it sets. Okay, what about the moon? It's even brighter. But nope, that disappears too. All right, the sun. It's the biggest, the brightest. This has to be it. But then, just like all the others, it was gone. His conclusion, reached through just pure reason, was so powerful. The real creator has to be the one permanent, unchanging power behind all of these temporary things.
So once he figures this out, once he has this huge realization, he doesn't just, keep it to himself. No way. His journey completely shifts from this internal discovery to taking on the entire system head on.
Talk about a bold move. While the whole city is off partying, he walks right into the heart of their temple. But look at how strategic he is. He doesn't just smash everything. He leaves the biggest idol standing and then puts the axe right in its hands. He's setting a trap, and it's a brilliant one. So when everyone comes back and they're freaking out, who did this? Abraham's response is just pure genius. He's not just trying to be a smart aleck, he's using their own logic to force them to see how ridiculous their beliefs are. And bam, that is the moment. The tyrant Nimrod, in all his rage, walks right into it. He yells, "He's just a stone." And right there, Nimrod himself admits to everybody that the things they're all worshiping are completely powerless. Abraham used his own enemy's words to expose the entire lie.
Now, you can probably guess what happens next, right? You don't just embarrass a tyrant like Nimrod and walk away. He was furious, and he decided to make an example out of Abraham. And this leads to one of the most unbelievable events in all of history, the ultimate test of faith.
We're not talking about some little bonfire here. For 40 days, they gathered wood, piling it up until it was a mountain. The fire they lit was so huge, so unbelievably hot, that nobody could get within a kilometer of it. This was all for show, designed to scare everyone into submission.
That's how insane this was. The fire was so big, they couldn't even get near their own fire. So what did they do? They had to invent a new way to punish him. They built a catapult, a war machine, just to throw one man into the flames.
But as Abraham is flying through the air, heading straight for this inferno, a command comes from an authority much, much higher than Nimrod. God speaks directly to the fire itself, saying, "O fire, be coolness and safety upon Abraham." And just like that, the very laws of physics were rewritten. The fire became cool, it became safe, it became a garden of peace. A miracle for everyone to see.
Just look at the difference here. It is night and day. On one hand, you have Abraham's solid rock faith. What did it lead to? A divine miracle, proof of God's power and his own safety. On the other hand, you have Nimrod's suffocating pride. His refusal to see the truth, even when it was right in front of him, led to nothing but his own humiliation and, eventually, his downfall. You'd think after seeing a man walk out of a fire unharmed, Nimrod would get the message. But nope, he gathers his entire army to go after Abraham. So God sends one of the weakest things you can imagine, mosquitoes. But they swarmed his army, consuming them down to the bone, leaving nothing but skeletons. And Nimrod himself? He was tormented by a single mosquito that got into his head, a tiny, constant reminder of his massive arrogance.
But Abraham's story, It's so much bigger than just his own trials. What he did, the stand he took, created a legacy that would literally shape the spiritual history of the entire world.
I mean, they call him the father of prophets, and when you look at his family tree, you totally get it. His descendants are a who's who of history's most important messengers. Through his son Isaac, you get the lineage of prophets like Moses, and through his son Ishmael, you get the final prophet, Muhammad. He's basically a spiritual grandfather to billions of Jews, Christians, and Muslims walking the earth today.
And his legacy isn't just in his bloodline, it's literally carved in stone. He and his son Ishmael built the Kaaba, that simple cube structure in the desert of Mecca. It has been the spiritual center, the direction of prayer for billions of people ever since.
After they finished building this house in the middle of nowhere, God gave him a simple instruction. Now, call people to come here. So standing in an empty desert, Abraham called out. And that one call, powered by something divine, has echoed across thousands of years, reaching the hearts of every single person who has ever made that journey of Hajj.
So we come back to that first question. What does it mean to have a heart like Abraham's? Well, it means having a heart that is patient even when things seem impossible, a heart that's truthful, especially when facing powerful lies. It's a heart that's obedient to a higher purpose without hesitating. It's generous, it's humble, and it's always trying to be better, seeking forgiveness in the quiet hours before dawn.
Look, this is way more than just a cool story from the past. It's a blueprint of virtues, courage, logic, faith, obedience that are just as needed today as they were back then. So, the question for all of us is pretty simple. Which piece of that incredible legacy will you choose to carry forward?